in another context, right? Velocity, like I said yesterday, does not determine team's productivity. It doesn't in real sense. It helps, it guides, it helps us to identify, team's capabilities at some point. So, but if we have less number of people available and they're more experienced in the piece of value that we're about to deliver for that sprint, can we share thoughts in here? Do you agree with me that it still wouldn't have anything to do with a lower velocity in the sense that they have more experience and they could pick on, more work that would still be within our capacity? Am I right on that, or you have a different opinion?
Yes, I think you're right
on that.
Thank you. Thank you. So it tells me that we're beginning to understand this piece of capacity and velocity. It's always a struggle. Don't worry. With time, you're going to come to really, really understand and get very familiar with it. You won't have to, struggle to differentiate them, right? So let's go back again. So now we have the buffer of 20% for each person. Okay, so we see Debola is already in. Debola is blessed in. So we're gonna have Debola in 400, right? Okay. So now we have Debola, and we also have increased, right? Our velocity has increased. What we should be able to accrue for, and the velocity is calculated by what? How do we determine the velocity?
Hours.
If I ask you a question now, say, what is velocity? How are you going to tell me what velocity is?
Measurement of the amount of work that the team can handle.
The team can handle.
Yeah.
Okay. Is Safi right? If you agree, what? If not, what's the right answer?
When we talk about velocity, is basically the quantity of task or the quantity of work that we can complete as a team during a sprint.
Okay, you said that is the quantity of work that we can complete at the end of the sprint, correct?
Yes, that's how it, yeah.
Okay. Okay, so I want us to be mindful of the grammar, the tenses. Sometimes you can have your perceptions will be right, but your placements will not. So the velocity, basically, when you're being asked what is velocity, it's simple. It's the amount of completed user story for the sprint. So when sprint 1 closes today, whatever we were able to complete today, every user story accrued, counted, accumulated. If it's 10, then that's our velocity. Right? So yes. What I was trying to find out from us is how do we come up with the velocity? It's basically user story points, right? That's how we come up with this velocity. It's user story points. So this tells you and I that the team should be able to work on at least 20 points with user story points for an iteration. If we have this capacity, within this capacity, we should be able to cover this piece of work. All right. So if, for instance, we have, let me say, who has PTO now? Let me give Lala PTO because he's the married man. So let's give Lala PTO 1. You're going to see that it's also going to impact, right? The time, our availability, and it's also going to impact the team velocity. So is this PTO deducted from your buffer or from your allocation? I'm seeing something different, right? So the PTOs, the holidays, and everything should actually be coming off your allocation,
Mm.
not from the buffer. Okay? But it will tell on the buffer. Reason is because this impacts this. So whatever we do around here shows up here. If you look in here, you can already tell that your hours are getting reduced.
So my
Therefore,
question is why is it not affecting the allocation then?
it's not going to affect this one here. It's going to be affecting here because this is the one that tells you more of the hours that you're available for, the total available hours. And that's why the buffer is being reduced, because now the buffer will be calculating 20% off this time that you're available for. Now let me take it back. Right? Let me take that back. So look at it now. Based on what we have, I'm available for 80, you are 80, Femi, and Safi and Deborah are available for hundreds, right? And
Yeah.
see how many hours we're available for.
Yeah.
Okay? So Deborah was right with the answer. But look at it. If we take out one PTO day one from mine, you can already tell that the hours I'm available for has reduced based on this, has been deducted from my regular available hours. Therefore, the buffer will be calculated based on my available hours, which means 20% off 57.6. Do you understand? So
Yeah.
if you do the same for the holiday up there with yours, it's going to be the same thing. So once your hours reduce, it also generates your percentage of that available hours that you have. So your holidays and PTOs come off your allocations. They come off your hours, your available hours, not the buffer. But of course, it will impact that area because once the hours reduce and you try to get the 20% off that available hours that you have been allocated for that week, or you have discussed about, you have spoken to the team about that you're going to be available for, right? So once you say you're going to be available for 20%, 60 hours, it means that we're going to be talking about 20% of your 60 hours, not 80 hours and not 100. I hope that's very clear.
Yeah.
Okay. Do we have any other question? Because I brought this up so we can, catch a glimpse of the capacity and go back to our chart list.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. And so now we understand why you should have this ready, right? And I'm going to be asking the same question again when we go back to the chart list. Let me cover this. So we're back to the chart list for sprint planning, checklist rather, for sprint planning. Now, like we said earlier, we need to have team capacity coming into the sprint planning. And what's the sole reason for that?
So you can be able to determine the amount of work can be done in a particular sprint.
All right. So that works. That works. Any other thoughts, any other opinions?
So that we can also identify how long the how long it will take for the sprint to be completed.
So So does that mean that the sprints can be reduced or increased based on team's capacity?
It depends on, from what I think, I mean, it depends on if the project is just starting, or it depends on when the project is starting. If it's like a brand new project, it may be important to know how to set it.
So once you choose your sprint cadence for 2 weeks, are you supposed to reduce 2 weeks or increase 2 weeks based on team's capacity?
No, that's why I
Okay.
said if it's a brand new project, like when you're just starting from like if you've not started the sprint, if it's the first sprint that you're planning, well, the subsequent ones will not be able to be amended. Is that correct?
Well, I would think that before we kick off anything sprint, we would have talked about the cadence that we want to follow. And
Okay.
that's what we're going to kick off with.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay. All right. So let's go over. Let's build the checklist. Everybody should be able to have access to this. Let me share this again in the chat for everybody to access.
Are we supposed to do something about it?
Hmm?
I said the stuff that you're sending to the chat.
Yes. Yes, we're all supposed to put in our details in the checklist. We're building it, right? So if you wanna, yes, you can add anything. If you're on number 3, you can start typing your own piece of that checklist, what you know should be in there. All right, I just posted the link. So the game is, we're building a checklist. What's the checklist for? For you as a Scrum Master, especially for those of us who are actively in the job market, this helps you to remember, 1, things that should be done prior, either post, prior, and during the event. Plus, who is responsible for what? It just reminds you, it's just something to remind you of, especially for your first few weeks. It's always good to know the nitty-gritty of things, because anybody can come off and throw something else at you. It could be some other Scrum Master, it could be some product owner, it could be anybody. But once you know what you're expected to do, you just can always say, oh, yeah, that's a good idea, but this, based on Scrum Guide, based on this is how it should be done, right? So that's one of the reasons why I always ask all these kind of questions. I always try to, walk us through this and help bring your thoughts back to life and get things done on your own, because it's not something anybody really does on your behalf. Unfortunately, that's the kind of job that we do. Unfortunately, in my opinion, that's the kind of job we do. Nobody can come and doing this for you. You do it yourself. All right, so let's go ahead and build it. I can't see anybody chatting anyway. What else?
What's the difference between the commitment and the capacity in this context?
So the capacity is just saying that I'm available for 80 hours, right?
Mm-hmm.
So the commitment is that, yes, I own these stories and I'm good to go on them. I'm committing to, completing the stories for the sprint.
The thing is that these things they kind of they are really related. So if you are not careful, is a thin line
Yes,
between is a thin line between all of them. Because
exactly.
is because of this commitment I was thinking about that made me write capacity. But with your explanation now, it's kind of like it's just a gray line separating, because they're gonna ask you in interview now, you're gonna be saying something else. Meanwhile, it's something else you need to say.
And that's the reason why we do a lot of all those kind of scenario-based questions, because if you're not in the system, so there's some things you won't understand.